Work out the size of angle X. So we are looking to calculate the angle X there. We've got a diagram of a triangle that's not drawn accurately. This is important here, guys. So we can't measure anything directly from that diagram. So we're going to have to do some calculations. Now, this is a non-right angle triangle, so that's important to note, but also we can't use our normal angle facts of angles in a triangle sum to 180 degrees because we only have one of the other angles. We don't have both angles, and we don't know anything about the characteristics of this triangle beyond it not being a right angle triangle. So we're going to have to use further trigonometry here, and what we're going to use is the sine rule. Okay, so on the recent GCSE papers, the sine rule has been on a formula sheet. They may not always give a formula sheet. It's a post-COVID thing. We shall see. So we're using the sine rule. The reason why we're using the sine rule, guys, is because we are working with a known side and its opposite angle, and another known side and we're finding its opposite angle. Okay, so this is why we need to use the sine rule. So the sine rule tells us that A over sine A is equal to B over sine B. Now there are three parts to this. You can also write equals C over sine C, but we never need to use all three parts. Okay, so we're just going to remember those two parts. A over sine A equals B over sine B. So A and B are the sides that we're working with. So let's call this A and B. And then sine A, so this is the angle A, and then sine B, this is the angle B. Now, when we're using the sine rule to find an angle, we flip it upside down. So we're going to use sine A over A equals sine B over B. And we're going to start by substituting in what we know. So we know here A is 14. We know that the angle opposite 14 is 125. We know that B is 6. And the angle that we're looking for is sine B, which is, we're going to write as sine X. So now we're going to solve this for X. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write sine X is equal to 6 multiplied by sine 125 over 14. So I've just rearranged that equation in terms of sine X, because X is what we're looking for. Now, when we're looking for an angle in trigonometry, we don't just use the sine button on our calculator, we use the inverse sign, the arc sine button. So X is equal to sin to the minus 1 of 6 times sine 125 over 14. And we're going to stick that in our calculator. When you're entering it in your calculator, make sure you press shift and the sine button. So you've got the inverse sine function, a bracket will open. So I'm typing 6 times, and then I'm using the fraction button to enter in sin 125 over 14. I'm arrowing away from my fraction, and then I'm pressing equal. So that gives me 20.55247901. Now this is an AQA paper, so they don't ask us to round it to a particular number of decimal places. Other exam boards will specifically ask for a number of decimal places, so Edexcel, OCR, etc. And it tends to be one decimal place for an angle. Because AQA hasn't asked us to round, we've got a couple of options here. You can write that full answer on your answer line, or you can show the full answer clearly in your working and then round it on your answer line. So I've rounded it to 20.6 instead of 20.55 degrees.